John Worsham here. Great to be back with you. I hope the previous discussions went well. So welcome to week 2 of our book study through Every Good Endeavor. This week, where are we going? Well, I hope we catch a glimpse of the original, good, beautiful plan for work. So hopefully this week we're going to explain God's plan for work, the design, the dignity, cultivation, and service, describe how it connects our work to God's, and then discuss the implications for our work this week. Just to review, we're reimagining our work through the storyline of the Bible. The storyline, like all stories, answers the questions, what should be, what's spoiled, and what's the solution. So should, spoiled, solution. The story or the meta-narrative of the Bible answers these questions through creation, fall, redemption, and new creation. And so this week we're looking at what should be. We're looking at creation and God's plan for work. The book unpacks this plan through 4 chapters involving the design of work, dignity of work, work as cultivation, and work as service. We'll try to summarize as well as pull out a key quote from each of those 4 chapters for small group discussion. So here we go. God's design for work. In the beginning, there was work. Genesis describes God's creation of the cosmos as ordinary work, work within a 7-day week. In the beginning, the forms of God's work included creating, caring for creation, commissioning people to cultivate his creation. This commissioning comes from the cultural mandate, our first job description. In Genesis 1:28, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. So fill and subdue. We'll say more about this job description in a minute. In paradise, God's delighting in the goodness of the work. God speaks benedictions over it. That's good. That's good. That's very good. The word used here is tov, which is similar, carries a meaning of like an applause or a crowd cheering after an amazing performance. And so through the creation story, we're getting glimpses here of the owner's manual that helps us understand our nature, the realities and restrictions of God's original design. Work's important for a meaningful life, but it should not become the meaning of life. And so that's why it's important to honor this rhythm, this design of work and rest, and to limit our work through the Sabbath. Sabbath rest not only stops from work for our restoration, but for worshiping the Creator and for celebrating the fruit of our labor. And so to look back and call things that God did through our work good, tov. And so to summarize this chapter, in the beginning, God delights to work as a part of paradise and as a part of his good design through the forms of creating, caring, and commissioning us to cultivate as a calling into freedom with the limit of rest. And so to read from page 30, when we think, I hate work, we should remember that despite the fact that work can be a particularly potent reminder and even amplifier of the curse of sin on all things, it is not itself a curse. We were built for and freed by it, but when we feel that our lives are completely absorbed by work, remember that we must also honor work's limits. There is no better starting point for a meaningful work life than a firm grasp of this balanced work and rest theology. So what should be in the creation story, not only do we have this good design, but also dignity. What a countercultural story here. We usually hear stories about work as demeaning, as a necessity. The ancient Greeks, Aristotle, Plato, thought of work as a curse and as demeaning. They had a hierarchy with the high forms involving cognitive work, down to the low forms involving manual work. And if we're honest, those views still influence society today. The biblical storyline views all work, whether cognitive or manual, it has dignity because God, our Creator, works and calls his image bearers, his vice regents, to work. What a paradigm shift to hear about God working manually by forming us from the dust, planting a garden, watering the earth, even woodworking. And so this biblical storyline also views that work has dignity because the material world is good and beautiful, will exist forever, and is worth caring for and cultivating. So to summarize this second chapter, all work has dignity because it derives from God as a worker doing manual labor, and because we reflect God as image bearers who steward good matter that matters. So to read a quote here from page 36 and 37, we are called to stand in for God here in the world, exercising stewardship over the rest of creation in his place as his vice regent. We share in doing the things that God has done in creation, bringing order out of chaos, creatively building a civilization out of the material of physical and human nature, caring for all that God has made. This is a major part of what we were created to be. The material creation was made by God to be developed, cultivated, and cared for in an endless number of ways through human labor. But even the simplest of these ways is important. Without them, all human life cannot flourish. So works are design, works are dignity, and chapter 3, it also serves God through cultivation. Let's return to the cultural mandate in Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. So let's break this mandate down. Fill the earth means multiply, yes, human species, but also human society. Subdue means to rule as God's stewards in order to unfold and unlock the untapped and undeveloped potential through our work. Maybe too many uns there. But as stewards, we carry on God's pattern of work. Look at God unfolding creation in this pattern of forming and filling. God forms the realms on the first 3 days, the heavens, skies, waters, earth, and then he fills those forms with inhabitants on the second 3 days, the sun, the moon, and stars, birds and fish, animals and humans. When we bring order out of chaos, when we rearrange resources, when we name and differentiate and elaborate in everyday ways, then we're forming and filling. And so to summarize chapter 3, work serves God through our job description, the cultural mandate, to create culture by forming and filling species and society in connection to God. And so to read a quote from page 47 about this work is cultivation. We are to be gardeners who take an active stance towards their charge. They do not leave the land as it is. They rearrange it in order to make it most fruitful, to draw out the potentialities for growth and development out of the soil. They dig up the ground. They rearrange it with a goal in mind to rearrange the raw material of the garden so that it produces food, flowers, and beauty. And that is the pattern for all work. It's creative and assertive. It is rearranging the raw materials of God's creation in such a way that it helps the world in general and people in particular thrive and flourish. So music is rearranging the physics of sounds into something that's thrilling and beautiful and with meaning. And so another quote, it's just too good, I had to read it. So whether you're splicing a gene or doing brain surgery or collecting the rubbish or painting a picture, our work further develops, maintains, or repairs the fabric of the world. In this way, we connect our work to God's work. And so, work serves God through cultivation. It also serves and loves our neighbors. Chapter 4, work is service. So reading from page 55, remember that something can be a vocation or calling only if some other party calls you to do it and you do it for their sake rather than for your own. Our daily work can be a calling only it's reconceived as God's assignment to serve others, and that is exactly how the Bible teaches us to view work. So work matters because of a calling from a caller. We're called and equipped for all kinds of work, for building up the church and for building up our communities through our talents, gifts for work. As Luther writes, through our work, we're the masks through which God cares for us. When you pray for your daily bread, you are actually praying for everything and everyone working to provide, having and enjoying that bread. So here's just a few of the hands that touch that bread: the farmer, the person at the mill, the baker, the truck driver, the store owner, and so many more to answer that prayer. So in the gospel, we no longer have to work to prove ourselves and get an identity, but to worship and love God and to love our neighbors. And so to summarize chapter 4 here, God provides purpose through vocation, a calling to serve and to love our neighbor with a ministry of competence as the masks and fingers of God. And so if it's an act of love, our work, then only skillful, competent work will do. Work becomes a ministry of excellence or a ministry of competence to serve and love our neighbor. So let me read from page 67. Imagine that everyone quits working right now. What happens? Civilized life quickly melts away. Food vanishes from the shelves. Gas dries up at the pumps. Streets are no longer patrolled, and fires burn themselves out. Communication and transportation services end. Utilities go dead. There may be no better way to love your neighbor, whether you are writing parking tickets, software, or books, than to simply do your work, but only skillful, competent work will do. So if you're looking for some bonus resources, listen to this sermon about work from Gospel in Life. If you'd like a copy of the article that Keller references, feel free to reach out at info@trianglefellows.org. And so now in small groups, use these questions to guide discussion. And just thank you again for this opportunity to apply the gospel to all of life. Again, I'm praying for your discussion. I'm praying for, as Dorothy Sayers says, your good work well done. Thank you.